Alright, so in this activity what we're going to learn how to do is we are going to learn how to use our little LED strip as a visualization for what the temperature is. So in essence, if this is going to tell me what our temperature is in a number, my LED is going to light up the number of little LED bulbs and correlate that to the temperature. So if it's 37 degrees, I might have this guy light all the way up, but maybe if it's 20, I'll have it light halfway up. So now I'll not only get a reading of the temperature on my microbit, I'll also get a quick visual on my LED strip. Okay. So how do we do this? Well, I've already installed the extensions that we need just to save time in this video. We're going to need the NeoPixel block and the DSTemp block. That's the water temperature block. And again, you just go to GitHub to get the block for that one. And there's a previous video on how do you install that. So let's do our first thing that we always do when we're dealing with the NeoPixel. We're going to drag that set strip. And I'm going to have it plugged in on P0 on my Grove Shield. And it's got 30 LEDs. Now the forever loop is where we're going to do most of our work here. But first thing that I'm going to want to do though is I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call my variable water temperature because that's what I want to get. I want to get some data, and it's going to be my water temperature data. So in my variable block, I'm going to drag my set down into my start menu, and I'm going to change that variable to water temp, and I want it to read the temperature from my probe, and so that's under DSTemp. Alright, so now I've got set water temp to whatever it's reading on the temperature probe. Okay. Now, I've got that, and I want to know what it is. So under my basic block, I'm going to show a number, and this is what's going to show up on my microbit. And oftentimes what I like to do is to round those numbers, just so it doesn't go like 27.763. It just makes it go faster. So I'm going to round it to the nearest tens. So I'm going to round my variable water temp. Alright, so it's going to show me what my water temperature is to the nearest 10. So if it's 26.6, it will show me a 27 on my microbit screen. Alright, so that's step one. Now, one thing that we haven't done with our LED strip, because we haven't been forcing the LED strip to auto update. So every time we collect the water temperature data, we're going to want that to update the LED strip. The LED strip unfortunately has a memory, and so it doesn't always change. And so what we have to do is force it to clear or to reset. And so that's under the NeoPixel block to strip clear, and we're going to put that in. And so that will automatically clear out the LED strip and have it ready to accept new information. Now we have to do something else to create our LED strip. Now, we haven't done this before, but what we're trying to do here is a little unusual in that we have a water temperature probe that will easily go from 0 to I think 60 degrees Celsius. It can get very hot. And the problem is our LED strip only goes up to 30 LEDs. So let's imagine that we're wanting to set this to go from 0 to 37, right? We don't care if the temperature is above 37, because if it's above 37 degrees, which is body temperature, our plants are probably already cooked anyway. So let's say we want to go from 0 to 37, but then that means we can use this as a nice thermometer for us if we wanted to. And I want to map that onto my LED strip. The problem again is something goes from 0 to 37 to something that goes from 0 to 30. So we're trying to fit a 37 unit long box into a box that's only 30 units. So we kind of have to squish the 37 box to get it into the 30. That's called mapping. And we do that under the math block. Okay? And so we are going to end up needing this map. Purple block is the long one. I'm going to drag it onto my screen. And what I need to map, right, is I need to map how many lights I want to have light up based upon what temperature I'm reading. So I am going to go into my variables. I'm going to create a new variable, and I will call it number of lights. And I'm going to take my set block. I'm going to choose number of lights for my variables, and I'm going to map that variable that's going to go from whatever my water temperature is. So I'm going to go back to variables and I'm going to grab my water temp. There we go. And it's going to go from 0, let's say, to 37. And again, if you want it higher, you can do it to 40. Right? Again, you're just making something bigger and you're going to map it onto something smaller. So the distances between the degrees get smaller, right, when we're going from 0 to 37 to 0 to 30. And I'm going to map it to my number of LEDs, 0 to 30. Okay. Now, we have to do one other thing. Okay. So, in my for loop that I'm going to need to use, okay. So now I've got my number of lights set. Next up is a new loop structure that we have to have. That's going to be in my for loop. And why I need a for loop is I'm counting. So I need to count the number of LED lights that are lighting up. And the reason to do that is I don't want them all to light up, right? I only want the ones to light up. That is based upon what my temperature is reading. So I'm going to go into my loop block. I'm going to choose this for index from 0 to 4 block. I'm going to drag this one down. Okay. Index is basically the variable that's created when you're using the for loop. It's a count, right? It's going to start at 0 and it's going to run until it counts to 4, and it's going to go one at a time. So every time through the loop, it's going to add 1 to index. So it's basically 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we want is we want that to go all the way to the number of lights that we want lit up, because we want to get out of this for loop once our temperature has been reached. And nice thing with NeoPixels is you can control individual LED bulbs. So when you click on the LED block, you get all of these blocks. So one we haven't clicked on much is that little ... more block underneath NeoPixel. And underneath of there, it has this nifty sets pixel color at. That's going to allow us to control the color of an individual LED light. I am going to drag that into my for loop. And I want that 0 to turn into my index variable. And again, your index variable is automatically generated when you drag in the for loop. And I'm going to have my lights turn to red. Okay? But I did want to show you that you also, under your NeoPixel, and you click on more, you can actually be very precise on what color that you want your LED strips to turn. Right? So you can change them with these numbers of 255 RGB, right, all together. Goes from 0 to 255 each one. And if you get to 255 for each one, you get white light. All zeros is black. So I'm going to actually just have mine turn into blue. But if you Google hexadecimal RGB, you'll get all sorts of colors that you can have your LED light turn into. Now the last thing that we need to do is, through my forever loop, what I've done is I've got my LED lights correlated to the temperature. I clear it, but if I don't tell it to show again, it will stay clear because it doesn't really like to update. So I go back to my NeoPixel, and my last block I'm going to put in is show me what this for loop just did. Okay. So there is our code for controlling our LED light to our water temperature. Let's download this. Okay, and then it should download into my folder. I am going to plug in my microbit. Okay, it is there, and now I am going to refresh. There's my 6th version of this. Alright, I'm going to drag that down to my microbit. Okay. Now, I should, now that my program is on my little microbit, Oops. Okay, so now I've clicked my download. Now let's drag it to my microbit. Why is my microbit showing up as maintenance? Alright, so now my file is ready to download, and I'm going to drag my file over to the microbit. There are my little lights blinking. Alright, it is now downloaded. Okay, so I'm going to plug it into my shield, and I'm going to double check that my LED is in P0, my water temperature is in P1. Alright, let's double check our code, and oops, I gotta change my water temperature back to P1 because it's not there. Let's re-download this. You always want to double check that because otherwise I would not be getting any data. Okay, now let me go back to my download folder. It's 508. There we are. Now let's drag it down to my microbit. Alright. It is now done. Okay. Looks like it's already starting. Oh, okay, my LED light lit up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it into my Grove Shield. The microbit should work and have enough power to power the LED light and the water temperature probe, but sometimes you might have an LED strip that is drawing more power. So right now my LED or my microbit is telling me that I have 25 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius. All right, so this is why I have my ice water setting here. And so if you notice now, my LED strip is actually lit up to 25 bulbs. So I am going to throw my water temperature probe into my ice water, and as with all code, you hope that it works, and some of them just went away. It now says the temperature is 11. Oop, and more of them just went away. Okay, so it's 10. Oop, some more went away. 9. There is a little bit of a lag. 8. I think my water gets down to about 7 degrees. Alright, oh, 7. So now I should lose one more light. There he went. Alright, so now if I take it out, oh, it got down to 6. I should now be able to warm it back up again. And I should see more lights come on. There we go. Alright, so now we have a visualization for temperature.